All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Of course, checking over on Rumble. I do see that people are in chat, so probably it will go live in 5 to 10 seconds or thereabouts. My apologies for being late today. Had a little bit of a scheduling hiccup. Had something that I had to do, and so I pushed it back, and things got a little bit hectic. Took longer than I expected, but that's fine. We got plenty of news to cover today. Oh, and I should probably open up Pixel Planet. By the way, momentous day for Pixel Planet last night. We have struck a peace accord with Turkey and with the Fibonacci's within hours of one another. I will explain when more people come in the ramifications of this, and the political landscape on Pixel Planet has shifted somewhat. So to be clear, we're not ordering any attacks today. Today is Rebuilding Day in commemoration of our glorious agreement. It was pretty epic, actually. I wonder if I've got Pixel Planet chat open too. And we'll talk about that, though, in a moment. Let's make sure that Rumble is live. Yes, Rumble is indeed live. I'll post new coordinates here in chat. Everyone can consider taking that link. I'll put it in Rumble as well. I'll also put it in a comment up above. I mean, wait, where's the comment section? Okay, that's a glitch I haven't seen before. The Rumble Rants is open, but I don't see any actual comment area on Rumble at the moment. Either that or I'm doing something terribly wrong. Anyway, I posted the link. We are rebuilding, so it's clank time. We possess West Africa, and let's explain the peace accords. First, with the Fibonacci's. They have effectively ceded all of West Africa. We've already overrun them there. They're moving over to East Africa. What I want is to have a border around Clankdom, generally a little bit out from its current borders, up to like Morocco. If you're a geography nut, you'll be able to follow along. I'm thinking from Morocco down along the edge of what used to be the northeast end of their swastikas and down into the center of Africa, encompassing like Congo and shit like that. And the seeding effectively of Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, the Fibonacci's want to build there. I'm wondering if they're intending to go over into the Arabian Peninsula as well. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we have achieved peace with them. We already overran their main swastikas, and you can keep on filling in that area. If it's off the coast in the North Atlantic, don't bother going out there. Like their giant swastika thing out there, at least there's some good art. And please do pixel around. Like there's a wolf there, and I kind of really like it, even if it's been griefed, and a spooky skeleton, and some sort of I'm not exactly sure to the north of that what it actually is. It looks like some sort of monster made out of a tree stump or something. You can go around those. And of course, the Manson Atwa thing. So we have a non-aggression pact now with the Fibonacci's. And as far as Turkey goes, I spoke with their leader the other day. We've got peace with them as well. And there were other considerations. So we're not attacking Turkey anymore. They're not attacking Clankdom. There was a rapprochement. I worked in a deal for Greece, actually, to achieve its mainland and to have peace with Turkey as well. I see that the peace monument has been griefed a little bit, and I don't know exactly who's still attacking Turkey. I'd like to make it clear to everyone, though, that I'm not ordering any attacks on them. I've spoken with the streamer and leader of their faction, as well as others. There's another thing. Georgia has also been worked into the deal, and Azerbaijan. Of course, Azerbaijan is an ally of the Turks on the server, so we're not griefing them. Georgia is, if not our official ally, at least a country we've done protection for. They're still cleaning up a lot of shit over there, and I don't know exactly what's happening between their borders. It looks like they're invading one another. Not my fucking problem. They can do whatever they want to each other, but we've got to guarantor that Turkey is not contributing, and neither will we. In the Levant, we've decided to leave Syria and Lebanon because that's right on Turkey's doorstep. And we're taking over Jordan, and eventually they will unprotect Israel. We'll be taking that in the future as well, I assure you. I hope that the mods get that message, and we might be rolling into Egypt. But right now, if you take that link in the description, we are repairing Clankdom, the 10.2 monument. I think the Ouroboros is almost completely cleaned up, but that's the original coordinates that are there. So yeah, Have some fun. We should probably clean up around Spawn at some point because it looks like an absolute goddamn mess. But yeah, as far as Clankdom goes, we have a non-aggression pact with Turkey now, as well as with the Fibonacci's. However, the swastikas we've already half destroyed. You can continue pixeling those in with the red and yellow tiles. We'll get right into the news in a moment. There's a super chat. Corey Alexander, look at Styx being a better diplomat than literal political figures. Yeah, it's easy. It's when you're not insane and psychopathic, things work a little bit more easily. Anyway, we'll get right into the news. Tom Fitton is posting this out. There's a big Hunter Biden story breaking. Bobulinski, of course, a former business associate of the Bidens, weighing in. Hunter Biden committed fraud against business partners, Tony Bobulinski tells Tucker Carlson on Fox News. This is a huge bombshell. Apparently, during an FBI interrogation, there was an actual call from Biden's brother, which is, I mean, that's like a goddamn nuclear bomb going off politically. There was fraud involved, allegedly. Now, that's what Bobulinski is saying, and he has no reason, I think, at this point to lie about these things. The FBI deliberately covered up the investigation into Hunter Biden. Now, we kind of knew that anyway, but now we have a former Biden business partner confirming, yeah, they didn't follow up with me or my lawyers. I don't know what the fuck was going on. I showed them evidence of fraud and all sorts of other problems, and nobody did anything. Interesting. It's not a huge surprise, to be clear. But it is, I mean, imagine if this scandal, if the ramifications and scope of it had been known before the 2020 election. Do you think that even honkening would have caused Joe Biden to be elected, or do you think he would have sunk faster than a goddamn rock in a pond? He would have lost enormous amounts of support. You're talking about a margin across multiple states of less than 100,000 votes in order for Trump to have won. You would have gotten way beyond that. Effectively, the FBI interfered in the 2020 election by shelving the story. Big tech was involved, Facebook and others. There's a reason why right now Facebook comes out and says, well, we wouldn't, maybe we'll let Trump back on the platform. I think that they realize that this is going to be a long-term problem. And I do think that it's the Hunter Biden case specifically that they're looking into. What I wouldn't want to do, if I'm a big tech billionaire, is have an incoming presidency, a Grover Cleveland moment presidency, by the way, with a vast mandate on free speech issues, potentially, based on this and other scandals that Biden has been, compromised with. I would not want that incoming administration to be able to turn around and say, oh, you remember how you didn't even let me speak on your platform while my opponent could? I can make life a little bit more difficult for you maybe now, can't I? I think that that's exactly what they seek to avoid. That's why Zuckerberg weighed in. Elon Musk pushing for the Twitter deal all of a sudden again. It might be midterm related, to be clear. Also, there is a purge on Twitter right now. People reporting that they're losing huge numbers of followers. It could be partially because leftoids are fleeing the site, but I think that there might be some bot cleanup going on as well. Regis Philbin's scrotum. Here's $5. Hexen Man, put that sheet in your hand. Alex Bogey, watch some of your old videos. You did not used to like Rand Paul. What changed your mind? I don't recall ever disliking Rand Paul. I've had issues very early on with his religiosity, if you're talking about that, but politically, I align with him more closely than most people in Congress. Mr. Repurpose, I do not recall ever seeing Styx's ears. Are you a Vulcan? No, I think that I look better with the hair covering my ears. Some people have it back like this. I think that looks goofy myself. It makes me look goofy, so I have it nice and free. I guess I got that 1976 work or something like that. So yeah, you can take those links. We are repairing Clankdom today. And we're not attacking anyone at the moment because we don't have anyone to attack. There is a gaping hole here, but I think the Turks have it way worse than us. And not all that damage was our doing. I don't know who's still griefing them. They had repaired a huge chunk of Turkey last night, and now it's disappearing again. Istanbul has been sunk, and it wasn't us doing it. I didn't order any attack. There's definitely some rogue clankers that would be involved. And by the way, there will be rogue individuals that make Turkish flags on Clankdom or something like that. That's not their faction leader. We're both very public because we're directing attacks very publicly to amplify the effects. He'll make a stream if he wants to attack something. I'll mention it in a stream if I want to attack something. I'm not going behind anyone's back because I don't need to, because we have so much fucking manpower, and the same is true of him. We get, by the way, similar engagement with regards to the raids that we can call up. I mean, I guess I wish them well on rebuilding. I don't know. All of the progress they made last night, for the most part, is gone, except for a little part right in the north of their country. It's also unhelpful. I officially would like to say, please don't bother putting like Clank and shit like that over there in Turkey, because we've signed a peace agreement. You can Clank elsewhere. We're more or less leaving Europe at the moment. Right now, I just want to rebuild because there is still a bunch of griefing damage. Alex Bogey, watch some of your videos. Oh, I already read that one. Derp. George B. Pryor, I have dispatched a brigade of lemmings to assist with the reconstruction in Turkey, and he gives coordinates there. You can see them. Ha 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 ha. I have the power. Hismanai, happy Clank. My second nephew, EV Hummer, ha 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 ha, scam. Yeah, an electric vehicle Hummer. Yeah, that battery will last a long time. Salte, good morning, Sticks. I got 2 MREs on deck, 1 breakfast sausage and 1 vegetarian lasagna. Let me know if you want these. I would definitely, yeah, I would like those, especially the vegetarian lasagna. I've got one waiting in Rutland, but it was literally my favorite that I've tried of all the MREs. I don't know. I think it was delicious, and I think they've discontinued that particular menu, and I have no idea why. They keep the ratatouille, at least. That one was good. Munir Martinson Boker, what do you think of the concept that God exists with each of us, not as an external almighty sky father? I would agree with it more, because I am God. Civic Nationalism 1776, with multiple October surprises coming before the midterms, which will undoubtedly influence the elections. Do you think the recession that is the October surprise for Biden will crush the Democrats? Yeah, I do. Based on housing, we'll be talking about that. Labor, unemployment, inflation, literally everything else. It's all coming to a head right at that sweet spot just before midterms, and that is the major issue on people's minds. There's also, I'll be analyzing based on Gallup polling, so it is only one polling firm, but generally a reliable one with regards to these questions. I'll be talking about that later as well. Big time analytic day right now. By the way, DeSantis, new poll, plus 11. It looks like recent events haven't harmed him. Transylvania 90, in before the Turks use this new peace to rebuild their country and go right back to invading literally every neighbor like they did the last 3 to 4 times. Well, they won't be invading Georgia, or at least their streamer leader won't be doing so. And I attempted to secure peace between them and Greece, but the Greeks didn't want to take the terms that I got offered, which was essentially that their entire mainland would be completely clear. They would have to cede Crete, which, I mean, I may not agree with because it's not really, I don't understand what's going on, but it was explained to me privately. I won't get into that. And I was thinking, why doesn't Greece just invade someone as well? Why not take up some North African shorage or something like that? Anyway, we'll see what happens. That's ultimately, that is their negotiation to have at this point. We've done the best that we can, and that wasn't accepted, I suppose. Anyway, we're rebuilding faster. So, I mean, Clankdom's not worried. The Landlord Harassment Channel, Twitter banned me 30 seconds after I said buy censorship. Not a surprise. Mr. Baker, if Santa knows who's been naughty or nice, why didn't he do anything about the other reindeer bullying Rudolph? Because he only knows that with regards to humans. He doesn't speak animal very well. Joe, you are live. No need to make sure that's actually the case. Next, yeah, so the Hunter Biden thing is roaring up into the news again, right at the sweet spot moment for the midterms. This can't be good for the Democratic Party. It will be shelved by the legacy media, but I think that the damage is already done considering the claims being made. We're talking outright fraud. We're talking felony fraud in I think the hundreds of millions range with the Biden family, involving deals with China, by the way. Next story. Pentagon has 30 days to probe diversity chief accused of anti-white social media posts. Calissa Wing described herself on Twitter as a woke administrator and said she was exhausted with these white folks, with an X, of course. Yeah, so I guess the diversity administrator, the BLM member, and et cetera, that the Pentagon hired for absolutely no fucking reason whatsoever, because the point of the Pentagon is to kill people, I doesn't like white people. Interesting that taxpayers are paying her salary. But anyway, unfortunately, they have to look into it now, which means she's probably going to get sacked. Wing's Twitter account also said this lady actually had the audacity, Caucasian audacity, to say that black people can be racist too. I had to stop the session and give Karen the business. We are not the majority. We don't have power, Wing said on Twitter. You work for the fucking Pentagon. No, you're so disenfranchised and disempowered. Caudacity is a slang term that is used to describe audacity demonstrated by white people, so Caucasians. She sounds like a bigot. On another occasion, Wing responded to a user who said, I am exhausted by 99% of the white men in education and 95% of the white women. Oh, so you're a genderist too, I suppose. How do you even know what a woman is? Where can I get a break from white nonsense for a while? Yeah, Wing responded, if another Karen tells me about her feelings, I might lose it. Yeah, so I guess they have to look into it now. They have to answer to Congress about why she's being paid presumably fairly large amounts of money to be diversity chief at the Pentagon. The only diversity the Pentagon needs is a good diversity of different organs splattered across the desert sands and in the jungles of the third world, because that's typically what the Pentagon does. Corey Alexander, is the USMC on the artillery gun line we used to have actual fight pits for Chili Mac, menu number 10, and extra cheese spreads and the little glass bottles of Tabasco. Some very fun times we had. Yeah, the little Tabasco ones are fun. You can get those in stores. I saw them in a store here once, and they were cheap as fuck. I thought about getting a whole shit ton of them or something like that. It's exactly the same. I guess people keep them on them. It's what Hillary Clinton keeps in her handbag for when she goes to an unethnic restaurant. To be fair, you should look to get on the biggest problem in the universe. What would you say is the biggest problem in the universe? It's impending destruction, inevitably in the future, comes to mind. Music and fiction. The CEO of Connect, voter services company, was arrested by the LA City DA and sheriffs. The company provides service to some big counties and Montana. Interesting. We've got Joker 1 over on Rumble. Covering your ears aren't nearly as bad as wearing a black winter knit hat in August. Lol. Yeah, you see some people with some weird shit on their heads these days. You'd think they were Queen Elizabeth or something. Oh, wait. Haha, she is dead. Next news story. This is a big one. I covered that this morning. Elon Musk suggests buying Twitter at his original price. Yes, he has decided to change his mind and acquire Twitter after all. The billionaire's surprise move came months after he tried to back out of a $44 billion year deal to acquire the company. Yeah, apparently he's trying to get rid of the lawsuit and just buy Twitter again. $54.20 per share, which I think is considerably higher than it's currently at. Although anytime it looks like Musk will acquire it, the share goes up. Some people are saying that he's got a private backdoor agreement, so he'll go through with this, but then Twitter will owe him money back. So that what I said was most likely his goal actually happens, but it's sort of off the books. It's possible, although I don't know if we would actually ever know that that happened. I think that Musk wanted the deal to be changed to pay less. He thought that he would come in all grandiose, people would be excited generally over it, and he'd say, look, Twitter, look at the golden opportunity I'm offering you, and I'm going to pay like 50% over spot, yay. Everyone gets excited. They start the paperwork up, and then he says, oh, I have second thoughts. And by the way, I have a whistleblower to back me up. I think he was hoping that Twitter would lower the cost, so save him some money per share. Let him have it at 45 a share just to make him go through with the deal. That didn't happen. It took too long. Elon Musk said, well, I'm still a multi-billionaire, fuck it, and decided to go through with it. Secondly, every time that he shows interest or inks a deal or anything happens, more woke people leave the platform. And I think he's genuinely annoyed by their presence in Twitter HQ. Don't think of him as a savior of the site, though. If there's a reform of the rules on the site, it'll be better than it has been, but it won't be perfect. It's not going to become a libertarian tech platform or something like that. It'll simply become more usable. One thing he's talked about, the idea of unbanning people after something, so you can't get permabanned if it's not illegal. Another thing, reworking the strike system, making it so that strikes on your account actually go away over time does make sense unless they're egregious. YouTube does that. Fucking most tech sites do that. I don't know why Twitter didn't move to that model long ago. The Gray. Is it just me, or does Trump seem like a character in the fictional shroud of the deep state we call a government? It all seems like a soap opera. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Glow in the dark. We at the Pentagon hired the diversity hire because every time we send a black guy to Russia and China, they get caught. The higher-ups think it is racism and training programs that we use that cause it. I wouldn't be surprised if someone was taken in by such a claim. Gary the Snail, did you or do you ride dirt bikes? It's Vermonty. Can't ride a bike, actually, which is funny because I'm in the Netherlands at the moment. TJ Mars, we don't have the power, says the people that can say anything they want with no repercussions, but also commit crimes with no arrest, like assault. Tippy, yes, I did cover Hunter Biden. Bob Alinsky is weighing in again. You can literally just Google it. It's all over the place right now, and it's bad. We've got allegations of explicitly fraud against the Bidens now through Hunter Biden involving his dad in quid pro quos. Like literal fraud, like as in the FBI should look into it because it's a felony levels of fraud in the many, many millions of dollars range. Now we've got an Amicus briefing. I talked about this as well this morning, and for some reason, oh, for the love of Christ here, the hell? That's something I haven't seen before. Anyway, just a second. Yeah, the Amicus brief was filed by The Onion, actually, the parody magazine and website, The Onion, in support of Anthony Novak. He's suing the city of Parma, Ohio. They arrested him at one point because he had a satirical page on Facebook that was ridiculing the local cops. And he was like spouting off shit that no reasonable person would find it to be anything other than parody. Like at one point, he advertised free abortions in the backseat of a police van and stuff like that. And, nobody would take it seriously unless they're a total idiot. And the 11th Circuit upheld the fact that the police had gone to him and taken his device and kept him in jail for several days. So they're anti-free speech, I suppose. This is now going before SCOTUS. The Amicus brief is 23 pages of the purest win. If you read nothing else today, read The Onion's Amicus brief. It is the funniest thing that they have ever done. I'm not going to bother reading through it, but it's a perfect mix of self-deprecation, deprecation of the legal system, deprecation of authoritarianism in general, and it's pure Onion. And most of you are familiar with The Onion. You can understand the kind of one-liners, but here's the funniest part. This is being filed before the Supreme Court. Clarence fucking Thomas and Elena Kagan are going to have to read this shit. I'm trying to think about the looks on their faces. They get the Amicus brief. They bring it back to their offices to consider overnight. And they're just like, oh, shit, what have we waded into taking this case? That's pretty funny. Some people don't like The Onion, but that's because they get into like weird cognitive dissonance modes and they think that The Onion criticized Trump so they're left-wing or something, or they think The Onion's a right-wing publication because they ridiculed Joe Biden for falling up the stairs. And so everyone gets pissed off at them all the time. It's like it's fucking parody. It's fucking humor. That's literally the point of the Amicus brief, by the way. A reasonable reader does not need a disclaimer to know that parody is parody. And yeah. At bottom, parody functions by catering to a reasonable reader, one who can tell, even after being tricked at first, that the parody is not real. If most readers of parody didn't live up to this robust standard, there would be nothing funny about the Chinese government believing that a pudgy dictator like Kim Jong-un was the sexiest man on earth. Everyone would just agree it was perfectly reasonable for him to be taken in by the headline. And it goes through it. It ridicules legalese and a million other things here. It's basically a laundry list of one-liners. Again, you should definitely be reading this. It's your nighttime reading assignment, Clankers. I'll probably read it a second time because I was chuckling my ass off. Gary the Snail, I know a lot of women who ride bikes with no seat. Music and fiction. Nick Rekieta covered it last night. It's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, trust me. Just fucking read it. You will laugh, almost certainly, unless you have no sense of humor. I thought it was fucking great. I see clankers are beginning to slowly repair all of the problems on Pixel Planet. Remember to take those links and clank away. The Ouroboros is now clean. And now it's on to the 10.2 monument, I suppose. You can clear out those giant swastikas too, because the Fibonacci's have abandoned them. One thing we will need to plan, though, at some point in the future is a definite border in Africa. It will be necessary. Next news story. Supreme Court on Tuesday to hear debate on alleged racial gerrymandering in Alabama redistricting plan. Supreme Court will hear arguments on whether redistricting maps violates the Voting Rights Act. There's a big problem here about taking up the gerrymandering case, and I've got my suspicions about which way they will lean in this case. Do states' congresses effectively have the capability of limitless redistricting, which is, gerrymandering on steroids, or is there some stopgap measure? This has been up in the air now for a very long time. It's not fully settled. The general consensus, barring a SCOTUS case, is that yes, in certain cases, a judge can step in, etc., and look at it and say, no, you can't have this particular map because it's beyond the pale. In this hyper-political climate, SCOTUS has finally taken the case up. The problem is if you side with the state legislatures, they can gerrymander something which is explicitly designed to create a certain outcome in an election, locking down a permanent majority. By the way, blue states can do this too, that shouldn't exist. So you've got 60% of the population wants chocolate ice cream, and yet everyone has to eat vanilla ice cream. It'd be a big problem. If the Supreme Court sides with the liberals in this case and says, no, despite the Constitution explicitly stating this, and we've walked on eggshells on this case before, judges can step in. State Supreme Court can step in and say, no, this is racist and illegal. It's disenfranchising voters. It's not what the founders had in mind. If you codify that right, then it means that the state legislature that represents, it's trying to district things fairly and represents a majority view in the population of the state, they can be hampered by an activist judge. So pick your poison. Do you want to drink arsenic or strychnine tonight? I wish that they didn't take up the fucking case, because either outcome is a bad idea. The only good outcome here is that they make a waffling, low-key decision, and they either uphold or strike down the specific redistricting map for Alabama, but do not extend it further. I'm hoping that that's what they do, because otherwise they're probably going to end up codifying the idea that no judge has any oversight whatsoever, no matter how far beyond the pale the redistricting is. This will be a problem in Illinois, where the liberals will definitely do that more and more. It'll be a problem in a place like Alabama, where Republicans will definitely do it more and more. It'll be politically based, race-based, et cetera, and the entire country will end up gerrymandered. And so really a limited decision in this case is the only possible outcome that makes any sense whatsoever. Akumu X, what year was it when you last had short hair? Long ago enough that I can't fucking remember. God, probably 6 years ago or something. LMAO, we're fucked. Join TikTok and post one video so we can follow you. No thanks. I'm not interested in having Chinese spyware on any of my devices. I'd have to get like an extra phone that's not hooked up to literally anything other than the TikTok, and I'm just not willing to go through the trouble for a site that's completely fucking insane. Charles, discussion in chat on tiny titmouse putting in timestamps. Do you support that, and would you pin it? Wait, what? Are you talking about Pixel Planet? I can't really pay attention to the chat there while I'm also doing a live stream. Chat on tiny titmouse. I have no clue. I don't know what you're referring to. My apologies. Hidden Angels, you missed my RR. Just wondering if you covered the disappearing Russian nuclear sub. Did I get punked? I remember that a Russian sub some time ago got scuttled at one point. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I see. What's up with the disappearing Russian nuclear sub? What did I miss? I haven't heard anything about that, at least in the contemporary sense. So you probably got punked. By the way, 5,000 people watching live. Sparky, Whether there's anything to it or not, the Herschel Walker October surprise may not stick much, as Georgia voters are numb from so many false allegations against his friend for almost 40 years, Trump. Well, also because imagine this. You care about abortion as an issue. Herschel Walker is revealed potentially as a hypocrite on the issue, but his opponent supports late-term abortions. So I don't know that it's changing many minds. Alex Bogey, did you know Hunter paid $1 million fine to the IRS last year? Yeah, the average person gets thrown in the gulag if they skeeve on their taxes. Next news story, Trump sues CNN for defamation, seeking $475 million. Here's what I would say. This is doomed. The lawsuit will not go anywhere. Yes, CNN defamed Donald Trump. So did pretty much the entire rest of the legacy media. Yes, he was defamed. They told lies about him that they ought to have known were not real. If they had any journalistic standards at all, they would not have reported many of the things they did. Guerrilla Channel got through to some of the missing link media. You've got Pissgate. You've got the insurrection hoax. You've got the Russia hoax, the cover-up of Hunter Biden. You've got therapeutics for certain diseases that we won't mention in connection with them, honk, honk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. CNN and similar groups lied about what Trump said, taking things blatantly out of context, lied about what he said by not reporting on things that he did say that they don't want to reveal, lying and putting words in his mouth, lying about legal cases. Now, they did defame him. The problem with defamation generally is that you have to prove damages. You're not supposed to have to do so. But at the same time, that's generally the way in which judicial systems work. How is it that Trump can show damages in this case? The defamation was so widespread that targeting any single particular individual or group to be a litigant against them would be difficult. What degree of the damage was done by CNN? I mean, considering their tiny audience, I would imagine not that large an amount. I don't think that the case will be found to have any merit. I think it'll get tossed out of court. It's unfortunate. They clearly helped to interfere in the U.S. election through their defamation. Lies by omission, lies by structure, outright black lies, etc. That's true. They claimed things about Trump repeatedly that were clearly not true. They took things out of context and made up wild stories about him for years and years. They still do this now. That doesn't mean that as a press outlet, which is given special protections and privileges, again, unconstitutionally, in a system where we unconstitutionally decide that a person who is aggrieved shouldn't have any civil recourse unless they can prove specific damages. I just don't understand how Trump would hope going forward that this case would be actually even heard. Professor Plaguebat, Tiny Titmouse has been doing timestamps of your live streams in the comments post-stream. Oh, okay. I don't know, man. I just focus on the news, man. We're checking Pixel Planet too over there. Yeah, we're pixeling, making speedy time of it too. Yeah, the 10.2 monument got a little bit fucked up, but it's fast being rebuilt. Next news story, U.S. job openings post biggest drop in nearly 2.5 years in August. I wonder what was happening 2.5 years ago. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, this is great news. U.S. job openings fell by the most in nearly 2.5 years in August, though staying at high levels as demand for labor remains fairly strong. Not very strong anymore, just fairly strong, which could keep the Federal Reserve on its aggressive monetary policy tightening path. Job openings, a measure of labor demand, dropped 1.1 million to 10.1 million on the last day of August. If only it had dropped a little bit less, it'd be 10.2, and that would definitely be meme-worthy. The Labor Department said in its monthly job openings and labor turnover study, or JOLTS report, on Tuesday. Yeah, there's plenty of JOLTS in the market right now. August decline was the largest since April 2020, when the economy was reeling from the first wave of the COVID pandemic. Data for July was revised lower to show 11.17 million job openings instead of 11.239 million as previously reported. Economists polled by Reuters had forecast 10.775 million vacancies. Yeah, the Fed keeps raising interest rates. You're going to get a lot less demand for jobs, dude. You're going to have higher unemployment too. It's Bidenomics. Biden causes a shit ton of inflation and then wonders, why are people unemployed? My idea for fighting inflation is to let the Fed do its job. Those are literally Biden's words. Well, they're doing their job. They're causing a whole lot of fucking problems. Just look at the housing market right now. Eric writes, the hell was up with all those Russian energy weapon extreme light beam threads on poll last night? Your thoughts? Maybe direct energy weapons or imaging satellite camouflage? Lit ground on fire. Wild. I didn't see them because I wasn't there last night. Just a second here. Next news story. Republicans hold a near historic lead on a key midterm indicator. This is, by the way, from CNN. CNN doesn't want to admit that the Dems are going to lose miserably, but the Dems are going to lose miserably. At this point, I don't think that there's enough time left. You're counting down the clock towards the midterms. You have less than 2 months to go. I just don't see the Republicans' edge disappearing. They've remounted in the generic ballot. They've pulled away in a number of key Senate races and gubernatorial races. The persistent attacks by Democrats to cast off Republicans is wanting to have women barefoot and in the kitchen and kill off gay people, and they're all racist. The shtick got old, but it got old years ago, and so it's not really having the same id poll impact that they're hoping for. And here's the thing. Sometimes you see a polling result that jumps out from the page. This was the case when I saw a recently released Gallup poll on who Americans can better handle the issue that is most important to them. Put in a historical context, this poll potentially portends very good things for Republicans come November. And the poll specifically is that there is an 11-point edge for the GOP with regards to who can handle the economy. And the economy, by far, is the number one issue at hand for voters. Crime, they have a similar gap on crime. That's one of the top 5 issues as well. On abortion, which the Democrats are favored by a similar margin, it's way down the list. It's at number 7 and falling. Roe v. Wade did not emerge as a mainline issue for the midterm elections. This is why, by the way, the Republicans, after having a lull there, have rebuilt their midterm advantage for the congressional generic ballot. If they ride a point ahead in the generic congressional ballot, they have no choice but to win back the Senate. They will increase their gubernatorial advantage, and they will win the House. Really, you're just looking at a margin. Here's what I said. Republicans had a net gain of 55 House seats in the 1946 election. And while the correlation is far from perfect between House seats won by the GOP and now they stood against the Democrats on the most important issue question, it is very much existent. There is a huge correlation between Americans' opinion on who can get the job done and what job they want done and what happens in the election. Oh my God, who would have thunk it? It's like rocket science or something. The fact is that on all but one of the 5 top issues, the Republicans have the advantage. They've got a very slight disadvantage now with education, partially because they refuse to focus on that issue as much. I think CRT and things like that were a winning issue for the GOP. They were surging for a while there. They had won education as an issue. If they were to focus on that a little bit more for the next month, all 5 of the top issues that are on people's minds, the GOP would have at least some advantage on. Game, set, match. They easily win the midterms, and it would be a red wave. I think that they need to do that. If I were a GOP candidate right now, I would definitely, somehow, I would shoehorn education in as an issue on my platform, on my campaign. Glow in the dark. Soon you will need to be a mathematician to manipulate the math on the economy to make them say it is actually a good economy. We'll probably have an official recession announcement this month. I imagine unemployment will continue ticking upwards as it did for a couple of months. I imagine inflation is at best flat right now, which means it's technically still rising year over year, which is the real metric. But month over month, the new change number is roughly stable. People will think that that's better than the alternative, even though that's not how inflation is calculated. I imagine that you're going to have warnings of stagflation, although technically we're already approaching it now. You're going to have a European recession. We've now got warnings as well because of OPEC. Gas prices are going to keep rising. We'll talk about that in a minute. D Brown 83. I read the Onion Amicus brief and I was laughing through the whole thing. Genius and troll gold. Sparky. What do you think about Clank Nation taking advantage of NATO wars and like Switzerland was to be a neutral nation? Perhaps there's wealth to accumulate. Yeah, mainly we're just pixeling in West Africa. No, that's our home base anyway. Yeah, the next news story, we'll get right into it, not delay here. Americans should prepare for gas prices to keep rising, analysts warn. OPEC threw a bucket of cold water on the idea of lower gas prices, a petroleum analyst told Fox Business. Yes, OPEC has decided to make a huge production cut of oil right at a time where there's a scarcity of fuel to begin with. They want to keep those prices high. Why pump it out of the ground and dilute the price when you can pump less of it and make the same amount of money anyway? You don't take any cut, you're still making the money because you've created artificial scarcity. You don't want to drop the price if your entire economy is pumping oil out of the ground. Why the hell would you want to do that? They want money. And of course, inflation around the world is still rampant. So what OPEC's doing, it does make sense. Yeah. So you can look forward to those gas prices rising over the winter. But unfortunately, there are two other compounding factors for people in the United States. In Europe, we're already fucked in this continent. But in the United States, don't get too comfy with the gas prices having come down some. The gas tax holiday will end. That's going to hurt. You can't drain the strategic oil reserve forever. That's going to hurt, even though it's like a 10%, 10 cent difference or something. And then OPEC is cutting production, and you got someone in office who refuses to drill, baby, drill. I don't know how high it's going to go, but I imagine it'll at least get a lot higher than it currently is, and maybe it'll even exceed the previous peak. Again, happening right at that sweet spot where it will affect the midterms, assuming that the announcement comes through on time. That will hurt you at the pump. Hella Radio lives. Gourds are multiplying behind you like Albert Heijn birds. Yeah, actually, this one is a balloon. It landed in the backyard. Somebody, I guess, had a party or something. And when we came back, there was a balloon lying there. So I just said, oh, well, it's the right color. Maybe it'll fool some people. Nick Rotellini sticks. It's $7.20 per gallon in California right now. Yeah, I think that it's way higher than the national average in certain areas of the country. I still get people talking about gas prices every single day. Some of them have gone up precipitously recently. Others are still like dwindling, and a lot of them are stable. But this warning is particularly that it's going to rise anyway, regardless of any other market movement, because OPEC is cutting production by 1 to 2 million barrels every single day. Music and fiction. Woodburn, Oregon, $5.29 a gallon, jumped 80 cents in 2 weeks. Jesus. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are saying that to me, that the gas prices inexplicably over tiny periods of time are just skyrocketing. I don't know why that is. A lot of people thought it was the Ohio refinery fire, but there seems to be no rhyme or reason geographically about where the oil prices are actually being affected. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what gas is here because I'd have to walk several blocks to the gas station to check. I have no clue how much it is, but I imagine it's pretty high. And it's not even measured in gallons because we're in the European Union. So yeah, just a quick update. We did work through all the news stories in only 42 minutes. Excellent. We are defending Clankdom and repairing it. We are no longer at war with Turkey or with any other faction at the moment. There will obviously be griefing, both by rogue clankers and rogue Turkish players and literally everyone else on the server. So our main goal, link in the description on both platforms and pinned at the top of chat if you're watching on YouTube, is simply to go back into our African homeland and continue pixeling in with the red and yellow tiles. If you see any like random pixels that aren't that as well and they're not part of art, you can repair that because it gives me massive OCD. I'm doing my part. Let me drop a few pixels right now, actually. If I fill out the CAPTCHA. That's what I'm talking about. That's my 10.2. No spots on the old 10.2 allowed. Let's see. Georgie Georgiev. Hey, Sticks, I'm a conservative and classical liberal in some senses. The past months, it bothers me that people like Tim Pool and others keep screaming that the USA should not help Ukraine. 1 out of 2. So you get to follow-up chat. I would say I don't have any problem selling them weapons, and I sympathize with the Ukrainians for having been invaded. But we're getting perilously close to a World War III style situation. We should not be treating Zelensky or his regime like they're angels, like they're archangels. They are corrupt as well. This was widely admitted by the U.S. media up until the war began. And I just question whether the same tactic that we used against Russia, the Soviets then, back in the 70s and 80s by arming the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, I'm wondering whether it won't have similar longer-term repercussions that people, in hindsight, being 2020, will say, oh, well, it was a mistake that we did that. I'm wondering if that won't happen. Lara Fabins, California gas is so high due to extra taxes and taxes on taxes because electric cars reduced money from gas taxes, so more taxes. Welcome to California. I walk. Fictitious Dave Savage, would Trump's damages be loss of the presidency? That would be an interesting legal argument, but I don't think that that's what they mean by proven physical damages. Georgie Georgiev, I think that the USA and West EU never suffered like us, East and Central Europe, and Tim and other conservatives cannot understand the fear and hate we have here for Putin and Russia. Yeah, I can understand it. And I mean, to an extent, you're definitely right. People that weren't behind the Iron Curtain, yeah, I can kind of get the differential there. You're not wrong on that. I just question the particular strategy that's being employed and the propaganda that I see, and that's what it is. Claiming that Zelensky is some sort of saint, hero, or something is not helpful long term. If he wins, Ukraine re-solidifies or whatever, then once the corruption comes out again, which it inevitably will, you've propped him up as a sort of hero. You could turn Zelensky into a de facto dictator very easily. Then the Ukrainians suffer just as much as if Russia just fucking steamrolls them. Cecilia, 1844. $7.39 a gallon here in San Francisco. Jesus. No wonder it costs like, how much the fuck does a month does a single family apartment dwelling, just a small one, actually cost there? It's probably beyond my budget. Grimvale, any tips for an aspiring author on what platform to write on? Considerably cautious with Amazon in terms of an indie start. Any alt tech options? There, as far as I know, there's really no good alternative to Amazon's POD. Many of them force you to handle the shipping or pay up front, et cetera, et cetera. One thing I will give Amazon, I have my qualms with some of the company's practices. It has made self-publishing very, very easy. They get credit for that one. Adam, Maryland is still hanging around the 330s. Yeah, imagine thinking that like $3.30 a gallon for gas, and you're like, wow, that sounds really, really cheap. Dude, I can remember when it was under 90 cents a gallon briefly in the 1990s. Red Raider Matthias, I have a degree in petroleum engineering. The way they figure out crude oil and gasoline prices is all over the place. Can't wait for the red wave. There will be one, I believe. Joel P. I live in a fairly liberal part of Pennsylvania, and the number of Shapiro yard signs are about even with Mastriano's, even though he's run 0 TV ads. Traveled to another part of Pennsylvania this weekend. Similar story. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Dixie Normus. Off topic, but the Smith & Wesson Model 19 is the best value 357 mag you can get. Yeah, I can't wait to get a couple more guns. It's going to be a hilarious time. Jagerbomb 2. Is there any hope of Biden getting impeached and war being averted? Getting impeached is almost certain after the midterms. It's removing from office that you won't be able to do. If war does come, there will be a draft. No one wants to fight for wokeness willingly. Yeah, it'd be a problem at this point to institute a draft. Adehog, there are a few Brits who say that America is fundamentally depraved and has no values or culture at its core. What's your take? Are we not Western? I think that there's a reason why Americans typically discount the opinions of people from the United Kingdom. I wonder what that reason could be. Aaron Bennett, what happens if World War III happens on Biden's watch? How livid will the people be? Also, higher gas prices equals GOP Senate. Gas prices surging could definitely affect several close races. The problem is that when war breaks out, people tend to lemming-like rally behind whoever the leader is, even if it's some sod like fucking Joe Biden. Most people will immediately become oorah, red, white, and blue war lovers, and they'll call you a commie if you try to escape the draft and shit like that. I hate to tell you this, but most people are not intelligent enough to oppose a war. A lot of them like the idea, secretly. Transylvania 90. A gas station in Enschede is 190 euros per liter on Google, which converted to 7.10 a gallon. Dutch gas is now cheaper than in California, which is unprecedented. Jesus. Oh, well. Glad I'm here and not on the west coast of the United States. Then again, I'd be happy under any circumstances not to be in California. Sparky, Ukraine was bolstered as a country by post-Cold War NATO propaganda to be used as a weapon. Before, Ukraine barely thought of itself as a country. Georgie Georgiev, 1 out of 2. Zelensky is no saint, but Russian Federation cannot be talked with. You need to understand their mentality. They're like poo, North Korea. They only understand force. Well, yeah, that's why Trump was better with Eastern Bloc politics than Biden, because Biden doesn't get the concept of force within politics. I would agree with you on that one. But then again, think about it. Zelensky is fundamentally the same way. Adam THM, funny story this morning, Sticks. A house I drove by every day has a GB sign for governor. Today that sign was gone and replaced with a for sale one. Ironic. Bleach Demon, by your estimation, is the West hostility towards Russia stem from their nationalism versus globalism? 357, fantastic for revolvers and rifles. I'd rather have it in a revolver than a rifle, I think. I don't know. A lot of it's propaganda fed. Here's the thing. I oppose Putin and I oppose the invasion of Ukraine, but that doesn't make me Russophobic. I have no problem with Russians. No Russian ever screwed me over. Even if they launch the fucking nukes or something, the average Russian's not the reason for that. It'd be Putin's decision. People need to parse the population from the leaders. Emperor Soft Turtle, God, are the Brits still butthurt about 1776? Get over it. No apologies for winning. Yeah, I don't mind British people either, but I have noticed that there is an opinion that is prevalent among some of them that Americans are beneath them somehow. I don't think so. The Grizzly, how bad do you think the people who are woke and leftists will backpedal and swear up and down they were never woke, scrubbing their Facebooks and Twitter feeds once backlash and anti-woke media becomes mainstream? If that happens, I imagine that a lot of them will just want to be the brown milk. They'll want to be the odd one out, so they'll continue with it. Charles Rhodes, why can't you change Israel on Pixel Planet? That's been protected more or less the entire time. We overran it, actually, along with Jordan. We conquered it, but then they rolled it back and re-protected it for some reason. They should unprotect it because I intend to take it over the second that we can. We are turning it into a protectorate along with Jordan. We've built Transjordan. Merrick Grimaldus, do you think Putin is desperate? No, his actions do not speak to being desperate. His actions speak to him wanting to act very slowly and strategically in the region and hoping that the West makes a mistake. I think that that's what he's hoping for. Of course, he doesn't want to throw limitless numbers of people into the meat grinder and lose support at home, weakening Russian manpower in the process. That's not the thing a sane person would do. No, I don't think that he's desperate at all. Could be wrong. It's possible. I can't imagine why he would be, though. He still has a manpower superiority. They've invaded, most of the territories that they want to actually annex. Where would the desperation be? Why don't you just get Zelensky and Putin in a cage match to decide who runs the fucking area and keep everyone else out of it? That's what we should do. As far as wars go, we should either make it like online war campaigns, like like a total war sort of thing. We should either do that, or we should force the leaders or their attaches to fight one another. Put them in the gladiatorial combat. It'd be very funny to see jiu-jitsu Putin against considerably younger and more built Zelensky. It'd be very interesting to see what happens. And you could repair all the damage you've done in the war by selling tickets to the event. Have it in the Colosseum in Rome, and then you live stream it. It's pay-per-view. Do that. Probably make $1 billion if you did it. That'd be funny as hell. I did find it funny that people were saying Elon Musk was like siding with Russia over his tweet the other day, which comes, again, coincidentally right before he decides to go back to acquiring Twitter. I think the people there must have been sweating, shitting themselves at that point. It was pretty funny. Just because you don't agree with the premise that someone puts forth doesn't mean that they're evil or something like that. The Grizzly, as bad as the UK is politically, at least it's not. We are not a nation, but a turbo woke collective, Canada. Hey, UK, did we turn out as bad as our younger brother? No? Then shut up. Yeah, well, Canada's still in the Commonwealth, so that's their problem. Sparky, there's been consistent Western propaganda against Putin for decades, leaving many to believe bogus stories. Putin is actually a righteous man. MSM has treated him like they later treated Trump. I don't think that he's really comparable with Trump. He still does the world police imperialist mentality thing. He just happens to do it with regards to a different overall political bloc, the Eastern Bloc. There was a time right at the end of the Cold War where Russia and the West were doing rapprochement stuff. It should have continued. There was never any reason for anyone to escalate. I think what they realized is that in the wake of the end of the Cold War, you couldn't do a bunch of arms testing and third world invasions and stuff, proxy wars, because you couldn't find a justification for it. Just look at what happened, of course, with the Kosovo shit going on. And that's really a bellwether of what was to come. In the wake of the tail end of the Cold War, when it's kind of clear that the Soviet Union is losing steam, and then when it finally breaks apart, the West needed more enemies. So we just decided to antagonize the Russians again, I guess. Josh Snedden, dude, the Pixel Planet stuff is so dumb and makes me want to stop listening. Well, I mean, I mentioned it a couple of times during a live stream. I'm no longer making one-off videos about it. So, I mean, if that's really a sticking point for you, I don't know why it would be, but you do you, my dog. I find Pixel Planet to be entertaining in between other tasks. It's just sort of something you go in and you pixel in a little bit in between other things that you're doing. Like when I'm editing, I'll edit a paragraph or two, and then I'll go on Pixel Planet for a minute, and then I'll, go back to doing that again. I keep getting offers from alliances and all sorts of shit too. Like my DMs, half of it is Pixel Planet now, and I'm not even like a dedicated streamer of that content. Very funny. It'd be funny if more clankers were to join up so that they can use chat too, because that would be hilarious. Sometimes it's fun to troll the chat over there. So it reminds me vaguely of the ICQ days. Oh boy, I remember those. Sparky, Putin pissed off Western carpetbaggers who exploited post-Cold War Russia. I would partially agree with that. Not that I don't think that Putin himself is of the same exact caliber. Yeah, Johnny Walker, we're no longer at war with Turkey, though. We've got an official peace agreement that I struck last night. The same with the Fibonacci's, but you can keep pixeling in the swastikas in Africa because they've decided to abandon them. They're too grief to continue. They're moving to East Africa. So no more clanking in like the Sudan and places like that. And if we go into Egypt, it's going to be a very limited campaign along the Nile. It's not going to be, I'm not going to take the entire country. I'm just having fun. So yeah, anyway, we've covered all of the news up. So I'll go offline now. A little bit of a low energy day, of course, starting late, had kind of a hectic schedule earlier. I prefer to go live earlier than this. I prefer to get it done at, I can't remember what time it is Eastern, but roughly 2 o'clock local. I much prefer that particular schedule. So I'll get back to it tomorrow, and I'll try to be more proactive about telling people like a day or two beforehand when the live stream is likely to go live. I really would like to keep it generally at exactly the same time, though, because then when people get used to it, it's like a morning show. Some people have already gone to work and they didn't get to hear the clankening. Merrick Grimaldis, the referendums allow a declaration of war, Russia and Ukraine, and unleash the entire Air Force, forcing a Ukrainian peace deal. Well, Russia can do that, but nobody will accept it other than the Chinese, I suppose, at this point. So, I mean, they can. You can't really stop them. I think they'd be reluctant to do that unless they have to, though, because the casualty count among civilians would be catastrophic. If they do that, then they really risk alienating a lot of people. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go off. Oh, Sparky, Clank Nation rules. Yes, we do indeed. That's about all. Peace out.